Well, hello. It's story time. We are on chapter 36, and the chapter today is called In the Game of Life. ... First thing, Mr. Daniels calls me into the hallway. So I heard there was a little bit of trouble yesterday. I fold my arms. Teachers often leave special instructions for a sub, but she was not supposed to share my notes with the class. I figured I'd write her a note telling her you could do a picture so she didn't pressure you to write. I know that you struggle, and I thought I was helping you, but I see I shouldn't have handled it by singling you out that way. Allie, I think you know I would never hurt you on purpose. I do know that, and I'm so relieved to hear him say it. So, I'm sorry, Allie. I really am. I hope you can forgive me. He holds his hand out to shake, and I shake back. That afternoon, Mr. Daniels moves his king, placing it on a black square between his own bishop and my knight. And I see the three of us, Albert, Keisha, and me, with Keisha as the bishop, tall and powerful and able to move across the entire board in one move, with Albert being the king, the piece with a ton of value, but the one unable to move more than one space at a time, always taking tiny steps, always running from and hiding behind the others. And then there's the knight, the piece that Mr. Daniels says is the clever one, the best piece for catching opponents in a fork, a piece that moves only in an L. I feel like I am the knight. I've spent my whole life jumping over things. Shay is the queen, the piece with the most power to move and frighten, the piece most protected and sacrificed for. I realize that with dealing with Shay every day is like playing chess. She's always looking for your weakness, always trying to get you flustered and force you into mistake. Against her, you have to remember that the board is always changing and moving. Keep your eyes open, be careful, have a plan. Realize that you can only stay on the defensive for so long. Eventually, you have to take a stand but no matter what, don't give up, because every once in a while, a pawn becomes a queen. Well, Mr. Daniels asks, pulling me from my mind movie. You've been taking a long time over there. Thinking about your move? I look back down. I search. I haven't beaten him lately, and I so want to. And then I see it. It's the knight. The answer is in the knight. I pick it up, move it, and hold my finger on the top to be sure I haven't made a mistake. Yep, I've put his king in check and given him nowhere else to move. Checkmate. He throws up his hands but seems happy. You didn't let me win, right? Allie, I have 3 brothers. I'm not capable of letting someone win. He laughs a little. I think you're just invincible. And then he winks and begins taking the pieces off the board and putting them in the box. I'm sad the game is over, and I'm relieved that I trust him again. And isn't it funny? I've gone from invisible to invincible. Chapter 37, that was a short one, is called A Chicken, a Wolf, and a Problem. Because it's Fantastical Friday, Mr. Daniels has planned a puzzle for us to solve. He draws some squiggly lines from top to bottom on the board and tells us it's a river. Then he proves he's the worst artist by drawing a chicken, a wolf, and a bag of grain on one side of the water. Mr. Daniels, did you draw that with your eyes closed? Oliver yells. No offense, but that's terrible. He laughs. I'm not offended, Oliver. I have eyes too. I have eyes to see it. Then he looks at me. We are not all wired to be gifted artists. Then he adds a little boat, which looks like a banana, on the bank of the river. Okay, he says, here's your problem to solve. Let's see if you can solve it. Ready? Listen carefully. You need to get all these items across the river, but you can only take one of them at a time in your boat. You can't leave the wolf alone with the chicken because the chicken will become lunch. You can't leave the chicken with the grain or the grain will become lunch. So how do you get all 3 items across the river? Remember, only one item in the boat at a time. Easy, Oliver yells. Just take the chicken first. What happens after that? Then you take the grain. But what will happen to the grain when you go back for the wolf? After a couple seconds, Oliver drapes himself over his desk. Mr. Daniels pats Oliver on the back. It's okay, kiddo. It's supposed to be hard. Mr. Daniels turns to Suki. Any ideas? She puts her pointer finger on her chin, like this. If you take grain first, wait. If you take wolf, oh, she sighs and shrugs. I don't know. Albert's eyebrows are scrunched up. They look like they'll cover his eyes. Take a few minutes and try to solve it on your own. Then we'll talk about it in a bit. I can't figure it out. No one can. Most kids have drawn a river and the animals like Mr. Daniels did. After a while, kids start talking to each other. I'm surprised when he doesn't tell us to be quiet while we try to keep solving it. I tear off 3 little pieces of paper and draw the chicken on the first, and the grain on the second, and the wolf on the third. I move them around back and forth across the river. The class is loud now. I pick up my 3 pieces of paper and ask Mr. Daniels if I can work in the hallway because of the noise. Sure, go ahead. I'm out there just a few minutes moving my pieces around when Shay and Jessica come out. They sit across the hall from me. I guess they came out here to work too. This is dumb, Jessica says. Tell me about it, Shay answers. Who cares about chickens and wolves or whatever? Do you know the answer, Allie? Why are you asking her? Of course she doesn't know, Shay says. She whispers something to Jessica, and soon after, Shay is holding up signs with words. Can you read this, Allie? I try to ignore them. I'm not going to let her see me upset. I remember, life with Shay is like playing chess. Don't get flustered. Don't make mistakes. Aw, you can't read it, can you? The baby voice doesn't bother me as much as the words themselves. I try to concentrate on solving this problem. Shay moves closer to me. You are so stupid, Allie. You know Mr. Daniels is only nice to you because he feels sorry for you. Come on, Shay, let's go back inside, Jessica squeaks. Don't come on me, Shay snaps. Whose side are you on? I'm on yours, Jessica says, but it isn't the sound of loyalty. It's the sound of fear. I stand up, go into the classroom, and go into the corner behind Mr. Daniels' desks. It's hard for me to push the sound of Shay's voice out of my head, but I remind myself that just because someone says it doesn't make it true. I concentrate on 3 pieces of paper, the chicken, the wolf, and the grain. I move the pieces of paper around on the floor. It takes me a while, but I realize you need to make more than 3 trips. You need to take the chicken and then the grain, but then take the chicken back with you and leave it while you take the wolf. Then you leave the wolf with the grain and go back for the chicken. I leap up. I got it! Keisha and Albert are surprised. So am I. Mr. Daniels comes over and I whisper the answer in his ear. Impressive work, Allie. He says I can go around and help others for the last remaining minutes. Allie? Max says in a loud whisper. What's the answer? Come tell us how you did it. By now, Shay and Jessica have come back in and they see me helping Max. When I swing by her, Shay says in a low voice, You're still a loser, Allie, a total and complete loser. But Jessica smiles a bit at me. Mr. Daniels calls us back to our seats. Okay, that was a 2-part assignment. The first was to solve the puzzle. The second was to see who would stick with it, who would work on it until it was solved. Congratulations to the few of you that did. If you were one of the many that gave up and started talking to your friends about soccer and other things, I want you to consider that no matter how smart you are, success is reached with hard work too. I can't believe it. My experience with endless frustration and having to work on things for so long has actually paid off. I guess maybe I'm having trouble is not the same as I can't. Chapter 38, Loser for President. So, Fantasticos, Mr. Daniels says, I've told you about nominating a class president for our first ever school-wide student government. Do we have our first nomination? Jessica raises her hand. I nominate Shay. Shay looks back at her and turns forward. She looks like she's ready for her crown. Okay, good. Another nomination? No one. Oh, come on. We can't have an election with only one name. I wait, glancing around. I know there will be no more names because Shay has made it known since Mr. Daniels first announced the election that anyone who runs against her will regret it. In fact, their children and their children's children will regret it. And she can actually do something like that. Nope, there will be no more names. Albert raises his hand. Whoa, Albert, way to be brave. I glance back at Shay, whose eyes now are little slits. But then Albert just asks to go to the bathroom. After waiting and prodding, Mr. Daniels finally says, I'll draw a name out of a hat or tell the council that we don't have a representation. Come on, folks, step up. Another wait. Then Shay raises her hand. Well, Shay, this is good sportsmanship. Who will you nominate? She cracks a smile. I nominate Allie Nickerson. Wait, no, she didn't say me. I look back at her, staring at me while Mr. Daniels compliments her again. And then it hits me like a boulder. Of course, she wants to win, so she nominated me, a surefire loser. Is that okay? Mr. Daniels asks. Can I say no? Yeah, you can say no, but I think you should run. I really, really want to say no, just not to him. Okay, I'll do it, I guess. Good, he says. Now both of you will need to say a few words tomorrow, and voting will follow. Oh, I get to write a speech, Shay says to Jessica. Then I hear her whisper, I am terrified. I can't write a speech. After school, Mr. Daniels apologizes for not being able to help me today because he has class at the college. However, he suggests that I just be honest about why I want to be president of the class. He asks if my mom can come work with me that night. I tell him that she will. I know she would in a heartbeat, but I would never ask her to help with this. It would just get her hopes up. I figure I should write something down if Shay is going to. I'll look like a baby with no speech. So I sit down at our dining room table with a blank piece of paper, all bright and white and staring at me and making my head hurt. I want to ask my mom for help so bad, but if she knows I'm running for president of the class, she'll get all excited and she'll want it more than me. I'm afraid to want it. But a mind movie shows me at the front of the class and Mr. Daniels congratulating me, and I have to admit that I really would like it. I pick up the pencil and concentrate real hard. Real hard. When I write, I press on the paper too hard, but I can't help it. It makes my hand hurt. I try to spell as best as I can. It takes me an hour and a half to write 2 paragraphs. I finally go to bed praying for a high fever, the kind of sickness the whole town talks about, the kind of sickness that Albert would find super interesting. A good reason not to show up tomorrow. Okay, that's the end of our reading today.